Dave, you know what time it is, don't you?
It is that time of the week where we do questions and answers with CR Talene.
Actually, I was about to say the same thing. We do Q&A with Dave Hall. I'm excited.
Well, I was thinking we could switch it around. Now you're on the other side of the country. I would ask the questions, you'd answer them now.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll get started with that right away.
So how Dave, are things in Georgia?
Good. I first of all wanted to find out, before I give any detail, how it went last week on the solo show.
Well, for me, it was fine. I don't know for those who are listening. I know they definitely miss you when you're not here. It seems like we don't have as many people chiming in, asking questions if you're not here to spur all of that. So I'm glad to have you back.
Good. Well, I'm excited you had fun. And while you were doing that, I was traveling across the country and trying to get over to Georgia. And boy, what a trek that was, just trying to get 2 moving trucks and our car all over here across the country and get it unloaded and get internet and get life back to, you can't see, I've hidden all the boxes behind me, but I've got mounds of boxes everywhere.
Yeah, it's quite a process. It takes a lot more time than you think it will. And especially when you're moving that far and got so much stuff to take.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, because we normally do this. We do it at 11 a.m. Central Time every week, but now I'm on the other side, so it's noon, and it's a lot different because I'm usually way behind just getting to the office. So it's a big difference.
Yeah, it definitely is. So how were the trucks? Did you have just enough space, not quite enough space, or way too much space?
Well, if I would have got 2 26-footers, I would have been able to fit things in the office and everything else. But our guy who came said, get a 20 and a 26. And man, we are spot on. We left a few things, but we made everything fit to the end. So I was afraid when I opened that door, everything was going to fall out. But yes, we had so much spot. We couldn't fit just another, you couldn't even fit another shoe in there. That's how crowded they were.
We had a friend come by this week and stay with us. They were moving. He's friend from from Puerto Rico. His son's lived in California. Son's moving from California to Tennessee, moving just above Nashville there. But they had 2 cars and they had these huge bags on top of it. And I don't think you could have fit another roll of toilet paper in those cars. They had put so much in there, but dealing with similar issues to you, they just said the cost of being able to move stuff was so expensive. It was cheaper for them to just sell their big stuff, load the cars with everything they had to have, and then they're going to buy brand new furniture when they get into Tennessee.
Yeah, that's crazy. The cost of everything, even trying to find U-Hauls or anything like that, it's so hard to find things right now. And that's a hard part. Then we sold a lot of things. We came over here to buy, and we went to all the stores and they're all out of stock of everything. We're talking bookcases or fridges or washers and dryers. And it's crazy right now in this world.
Yeah, he said it was $5,500 just to rent the U-Haul. Now, to put that in perspective, it was a little further than where I had to come from, but not that much. I mean, maybe an extra day. And again, usually they just charge them by days when you look at it. And mine was $500. So I moved out of Utah. I got a truck just as big as they would have gotten out of Utah and brought it here to Tennessee. He was coming out of California. So again, a little further, over 10 times, 11 times as much to get that truck out of there. It's like, nope, I'm just not going to spend the cost. We've got more stuff anyway. Let's just sell it and start over.
Yeah. Well, Dave, let's get everybody on here on track of what we're doing today. I know they would love to hear more of my Georgia story and all my pack rat life, but what we're talking about today is retirement. And so we come on here, Dave, and we ask you a million questions and have you answer those. And we also encourage those with us live to come on and ask your questions and submit anything. I mean, again, we talk about this all the time, Dave, but we've got Medicare, we've got reverse mortgage, Social Security, annuities, long-term care. We have so many topics that we choose from, and we encourage you to submit your question at any of those topics because Dave's here to help answer those questions. And Dave, we love this time, and I feel like it's one of our best times of the week. We can get together and really get down to the nitty gritty here of retirement. And it's really fun.
Yeah, it really is. I love going through this process. I love helping people as much as we can. Interesting, when you teach, you're teaching what you think they want to learn. You're teaching the things that you think are important. when you get to a point where you're asking questions, you're getting to educate people on the things that interest them, the concerns they have, the legitimate issues that are going on in their retirement. So it's a great time for me to be able to make sure that we're making the impact in our teaching and help us guide our teaching. We see many times where we get questions in these question and answer segment that guide our webinars in the future and what we put in there to make sure we get people the information they need.
And Dave, we're broadcasting live for Facebook and YouTube. So I just want to remind those, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know also what questions you have so we can throw questions at Dave. I've got a whole list of questions here, Dave, I'm going to throw at you, and then encourage those watching live to submit their questions. Now, if you're on replay and you're watching this, go ahead and submit that question to us at theprosperityguy.com on the contact us page, and we'll get that taken care of. But Dave, are you ready to get into some of these questions here?
Let's get going.
Okay, I've got Pamela. When should you purchase a life insurance retirement plan? At what age?
Yesterday, whatever you were yesterday, we talk about this all the time. It's really the younger you are, the cheaper they are, and the better option you have. The problem with life insurance, you have to qualify to be able to get one of these policies. So the more time you allow to go under your feet, the higher chance you have of having some type of health issue that may disqualify you. I am not against people getting these for their kids. I'm not against people getting these for their raised children who may be in their 20s, because they can be used for so many things. The sooner you get money in there, sooner you're getting tax-free growth, sooner you're able to take tax-free distributions, sooner you get life insurance put in place, sooner you get access to the chronic illness rider. If you're at an older age and you want to have access to the chronic illness rider in case of a long-term care event, all of these things are going to be better the sooner you put it together.
Dave, what's the number one reason you see people not signing up to get a life insurance retirement plan? I mean, even early on, what do you think that is?
So I will tell you the number one thing, and it may surprise you, is people just are not educated on them enough. They don't understand how they work. Now, the other second one would be they don't have the money to do so. They're not getting the money allocated to themselves where they can put the savings aside to be able to allow them to get it. But if people understood what they could do for them and understood the value of what a life insurance retirement plan can offer, you would see more people finding the money. They would start saving better because they'd realize, look, if I can put some of this in here, bond portion of my portfolio, I can put the stock portion into my 401k or my IRA, whatever the case may be, put it in the Roth options. I've got tax-free income going forward and a portfolio for retirement that's very effective and very efficient.
Well, Dave, let's continue to jump on here. I've got a whole list of questions here. And again, I encourage you, if you're watching live, to go ahead and submit your retirement question, or just jump on and say hi and let us know where you're from. And Dave, I've got Maureen here, and she's asking, if the spouse is the higher earner and the younger of the team, can the husband collect at his rate at 67 and the step up to the wife's rate when she reaches age 70?
So let's talk a little bit about this just to make sure you understand what's going on here. Now, when we talk about high earner, lower earner is going to be, and in theory, both are, the higher earner just never qualify. Lower earner would be eligible for 50% of the higher earner's benefits. So depending on this situation, Maureen, where the husband falls may or may not be a benefit for them to claim early. Now, yes, can they claim at 67 and get their benefits, and then the wife ends up waiting, and at age 70 when she claims, if half of her benefits are higher than what the husband was getting, yes, that husband's going to get a step up. They're going to get an increase, that spousal boost that they're going to be able to get access to. But what we find for some people is their individual benefits are higher than that 50%. So really going to be based upon where your husband's benefits fall. If they're low enough, then absolutely claim at 67 on his end, wife claims at 70, and then he gets a little extra boost there when she ends up claiming those benefits.
Dave, when we're talking about benefits here, especially we're talking about a team here, what mistakes do you see happen early on as we get into this?
Well, a number of things. Number one is people do not plan appropriately. They don't look at longevity. They don't look at break-even points, and they don't look at their own situation. Maybe they've been down at the Waffle House having breakfast down there with all their guys, or the ladies at the beauty shop, and they get talking about this, and somebody pops up and says, hey, this is what I did for my retirement. I'm getting this amount of money. But their situation is substantially different. So we see that they'll often take situations and information from those of the Waffle House or the beauty salon instead of actually going out and doing their homework and putting a plan together. I mean, it's like even here, you look at it, there's still a number of issues Maureen's got to deal with, because when you look at even waiting till age 70, well, if the husband maybe has no benefits, here it sounds like there are some available. Let's say that they had not worked outside the home. Maybe they'd stayed and raised the children, did other things, whatever the case may be. Maybe a situation where even for Maureen, so they can start those spousal benefits earlier, maybe it's better for her to claim at an earlier date. You know, these are things we've got to look at. Not always, and most situations, Maureen's best option is going to wait till 70, but it's all different. No one's Social Security is going to be calculated the same because everyone's trying to accomplish a different goal.
So Dave, you're saying communication is key when we're talking about this as a companionship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Not only amongst you and your spouse, but also with an advisor who can help you make that decision. I am hoping it is just me that has lost CR and it's not everyone else, and that he's coming back with us soon. Not sure what's gone on here. I am not seeing a CR at all. I'm seeing that the presentation is still going, but I'm not seeing him. So if that is the case, what I'm going to assume is that I am still here and available. For those of you who are live, we'll let CR jump back in when he gets here. But in effort to keep moving forward, I'm going to start popping up the questions and I'll keep moving forward. You'll get to just see CR there, still picture of him until he can get back into the broadcast, hopefully. So it looks like maybe he's out completely. If that's the case, looks like I may be on my own for the rest of the show or for at least part of this. But let's go ahead and jump into Jeremiah's question. Taking retirement funds, lump sum, or taking them monthly, which is the best? I assume that's strategy, not savings. Really depends on your individual facts and circumstances, what you're trying to accomplish, maybe the risks that you're trying to eliminate. We do have situations where it makes sense to take money out once a year when maybe the market's up. Take your money out, take the market risk off the table. And then if the market drops for that year, you don't have to worry about the sequence of the return risk or anything else that you'd be dealing with. So it really comes down to your own situation. I mean, I'm not going to say one's better than the other. Most people like to get a monthly check. That's what they're used to. Most of you got either biweekly or semi-monthly checks during your working years. So you're hoping to get something similar to that during your retirement. But if you are a good saver and trying to take some other risks off the table, maybe that lump sum option is an option for you. Next question is from Steve. Let me also check here before we go there. Maybe CR can pop back in with some questions in the feed. I have no idea what's going on his end with new internet. Always an interesting process. Steve's question here, how much Social Security is your spouse entitled to, and how is that calculated? Assuming also that the spouse has worked during their lifetime. The spouse remarried, can they collect on the new spouse Social Security? There is a ton of questions there. Unfortunately, Steve, I'm not going to be able to answer everything inside of there. It would take the next 20, looks like 17 minutes that we have just trying to answer your one question. So let me address a couple of things. The spousal benefit itself, we won't get into survivor benefits, but the spousal benefit itself, they are entitled to up to half of your full retirement benefit. So if your full retirement benefit from Social Security was $2,000, they would be entitled to $1,000 of that benefit. Now, if they ended up taking that benefit earlier than their full retirement age, that amount would be reduced accordingly, depending on when they took it. There would not be an increase. So there's no benefit for a spouse to wait beyond full retirement age, but that's what they would be entitled to, is half of your benefit, as long as it's higher than their own. Again, if theirs is higher, it's not added to, it's not either or. It's the higher of the two. So whatever one provides the most benefit to the spouse, that's what they're going to get. Now let's talk about remarrying. And again, this is getting into former spouses. What are they potentially entitled to? Which a former spouse who's been married to an individual for a period of at least 10 years, and they have both reached full retirement age, which from not full retirement age, but age 62, I guess, or you can start taking benefits. They both reached that. There are some options for that former spouse to be able to get benefits off their work record. Now, if they get remarried before age 60, if a former spouse ends up getting married before age 60, they're not going to be entitled to any spousal benefits from the living benefits side of it. Now, if they wait until after age 60 to end up getting married, they would be entitled to, there's some survivor benefits that are there and available for them. But 60 is the age you've got to really look at. And again, depends on what you're looking at from either a living benefit, a surviving benefit, or if you've got qualified children in the home. So way more complex than we can get into. Hopefully that helps, though, that you're going to get the higher of the two of what you're entitled to. And your marriage, if you're getting remarried, you've got to look at that age 60 to figure out how that may affect your benefits and what you'd be entitled to. Well, it looks like we may have CR back here. Let me see if I can get him into the stream. CR, welcome back.
Sorry about that, Dave.
Well, it looks like you may still be having some internet issues going on there.
Can you hear me at all?
A little bit. You're like a robot over there. You just kind of come in and out, and we see you move every once in a while.
I am so sorry. I thought I had this all figured out here.
Yeah, no worries. I just went forward. I started asking questions and answering them. So hopefully we've been able to get some good information out there to everybody.
Good. Well, do you mind if I bring up our next question from Mariano?
We haven't asked Elizabeth yet, so go ahead and take this one. I just popped that up on the screen. So
sorry about that. Yeah. What do you mean if you wait to take Social Security at full retirement age, you have removed the tax risk?
Yeah, so I think what they're bringing up here is saying that somehow if you wait on your Social Security benefits, they're not going to be taxed. And there was a misunderstanding definitely in this webinar if Elizabeth thinks that's what's happening. Your Social Security benefits are going to be taxed forever. There's no period that you quit. There's no, hey, I get to 90, I don't have to pay anymore. I get to 100, I don't have to pay anymore. You're going to have to continue to pay the tax. Now, what happens, the longer you wait for those benefits, obviously the more money you get, which unfortunately for many of you will create more tax. But remember, it's a percentage of the benefits. So even if you're paying 30% tax, you're still getting 70% of additional dollars to help you through your retirement.
Dave, so we're talking about Elizabeth here, and we're looking at this. So the first thing I want to point out is what's the benefit of waiting till full retirement age, first of all, to take that Social Security?
You don't have to take the early distribution cut, which can be substantial. If your full retirement age is 66 and you decide to take your benefits at age 62, you're going to have about a 25% reduction of benefits. So if you're getting $1,000 now, you're going to get about $750. Well, if your full retirement age is now 67, which is going up to, you're getting a 30% reduction. So now you're only getting $700. May not seem that much when you're going into retirement. Maybe you're still working part-time, have other income coming in. But once you get in your 70s, 80s, 90s, and maybe your other assets have run out, you can't work anymore, $300 or $400 is a lot of money to a retiree. I know when I look at my grandmother-in-law, she's 94, $300, $400 a month would change her life at the point she's in right now.
And Dave, we've had this question come up several times. What about Social Security? Is it going to even be around by the time you're going to be able to be there to take it?
It will, or the country itself is not going to be here. I mean, it will tell you that it is the most liked program that the government has. It is slotted to go bankrupt. It's going to run out of money by 2034. Now, again, we say it's going broke. It'll never go broke because there's always money getting put back into the program. So never going to be completely empty, and they will still be able to pay benefits. But my belief is, yes, it's going to be there. Will it change? Absolutely. Will it probably be to where our full retirement age is going to get higher? I think so. Will it be to where you can't start taking benefits until maybe age 64, then 62? Yeah, probably going to happen. Will COLA increases adjust? Probably not. I mean, if they do, probably for your benefit. Will taxes go up to pay for them? Yeah, I think that's probably going to have to happen. But we'll see adjustments, but I expect that program to continue on for decades to come.
Well, Dave, again, I apologize. And for everyone watching live, thank you for bearing with us. Sometimes these things do happen, especially I'm in a new place trying to get new internet. I thought we had something great there. So Dave, thanks for bearing with me also.
Yeah, I was just hoping Gary was here and I was going to bring him into the show with us. I figured if he was here, maybe I could just bring him right in and we could keep going together.
Yeah, that would be perfect. And again, for those watching live, go ahead and submit your retirement questions, and we'll try to squeeze those in as we go through the list here. And Dave, back to Mariano. I tried jumping the gun earlier on him, but regarding the permanent life insurance, can pre-tax monies be used to purchase such insurance?
Mariano, the answer is no. So remember, what we've got is structure very similar to the Roth IRA, where you're going to have to pay the tax up front. You pay your business partner, federal, state, local governments up front, and then you get the tax-free growth and you get the tax-free distribution. So that is going to be a cost of entry if you've got a bunch of money, which sometimes we see people in this situation where they've got it in their 401k, IRA. We want to transition it into the tax-free bucket. We're going to have to pay the cost of the tax, but we're doing it right now at a historically low tax rate. So it can be a great time to be able to do that.
Dave, why is cost of entry so critical as we talk about all of these different pieces right now versus later?
Because it's a couple of reasons. I mean, from a long-term perspective, the government's spending way too much money. I mean, there's no way in the world we're going to be able to keep up with the spending without raising taxes. But number two, we've really got to get people to an emotional point where they can deal with it. Pretty hard. You've saved your whole life and you've watched your returns. You got 8%. So, if you had $1 million by the time you get in here, you get an 8% rate of return, you get $80,000 and you're thinking, great. My account grew. Next year, now it's 1,160,000, whatever the case may be. As you increase that up, well, then all of a sudden we come in and say, hey, wait a second, you need to start paying tax on this. And then we're telling you, look, pull out 200,000 and maybe pay as much as 24% on the money you're pulling out. You're going to pay almost $50,000 on that 200 grand, and people get emotionally really in a position. It's hard. And again, you've got to get yourself to a point where you look at it and say, look, I do truly believe taxes are going to be higher, because again, if they're 1% higher CR, it makes sense. If you don't believe they're going to be any higher, don't do it. Stay away from it. Just wait out there. And again, hopefully you're right. I don't think you are, but hopefully you're right for your retirement and you're able to enjoy it at the level you hope you will.
And Dave, we know that taxes are slated to go up. And that's the thing, is we're trying to give that warning, right? It's the Chicken Little running out there saying the sky is falling. It's really out there to say, hey, we're here to help you. And you're saying, hey, you can still do anything you want.
Yeah, absolutely. We're having this conversation again last night. And I brought it up with you before when we talked not only about taxes, but when you look at that voice of warning and the fact that people don't want to listen. We were talking last night about Japan again. Many people like to use Japan as a good example why modern monetary theory actually works, because they say, look, it's working so well for Japan. But is it? And for short periods of time, we can make anything work. I can take a family who's $100,000 overextended on credit cards. Yeah, it's worked, maybe even for a decade. It's 10,000, then it was 20,000, then it was 40,000. Now it's up to 100. Pretty soon that collapses, and it can become miserable when that does. Do we want to be in that position? Absolutely not. So what are we trying to do with your retirement? Trying to warn you. Exactly. It may take 30 years for you to start experiencing some of the things that we're going to talk about here. But if you're prepared in that 30 years, how grateful are you versus saying, man, Dave and CR used to get on the podcast every week or on the questions and answers, whatever we're doing, and tell us about this. Sure wish I would have listened to him. I would have been in a much better position now than I currently am.
And Dave, if my internet does go out again, Gary did jump on and say he's here. So just in case, he's ready to jump on and take my spot at any moment.
Well, welcome, Gary. Maybe I'll just shut my internet down so he can come on. We've got a fellow expert in there that can answer questions for everybody.
Yeah, we love that. And we're glad you're here, Gary, and all those who are joining us live. Dave, Sally's got a good question here, and I wanted to pull this one up. Can you fully fund your Roth IRA and do a 401k conversion in the same year?
Yes, you can. They are completely exclusive events, so don't get your conversions mixed up with your contributions. Now, depending on your income levels, your contributions may not be able to happen. You make too much money, you can't contribute. Make too little money, you can't contribute. Now, you can use backdoor Roths, and Gary's very familiar with those. He talks about them all the time, brings them up here on the show. But you can use a backdoor Roth. Conversion's completely separate. When they made the change a couple of years ago, took it out to where conversions, there's no income limits, nothing you have to worry about, mutually exclusive. Go ahead and do those. Now, piecemeal them. Please don't go out and do them all overnight for most of you. Now, if you've got small amounts, maybe not a big deal. But if you've build up for the last 20 years. You've got a million or $2 million in there. Probably not your best solution to go do all of that in a 12-month period or a one-time period in a given tax year.
Dave, is there harm in having a 401k that's overfunded?
There absolutely is, and it's from the tax perspective. Now, this is one of the biggest issues we have since the 1970s, late 1970s. Government's been telling us this is what you got to do. And to some level, it was the only thing we had to do. Pensions were going away, 401k plans were put into place, so we as employees would be more responsible for what was going on versus the employer being responsible for it. And then it wasn't until, I think, the 1990s where Roth finally came into the picture. So we had a couple of decades where this was the only option. Then Roth come, and during that period of time, we didn't have all this debt. We didn't have all the problems ahead of us from a Social Security, Medicare standpoint. So it really even made sense there. So everybody kept doing what seemed to be the right thing. Well, now we're finding that maybe wasn't the best answer. Although even there, it still could have been. Maybe even there, you still were at a 37% bracket during your working years, or a 39.6. Now you're going to convert it to 24 in hopes when you get into retirement, it goes back up to 40 or 50, whatever the case may be, you've made the right decision. So, not bad. People can get emotional about it. Unfortunately, we've had people get in the office and break down feeling like they've really messed up their retirement. If you've saved money, if you've taken steps, you haven't messed up at all. It's just, how do we adjust the risks? How do we put you in a better position and then accept what you have and move forward with it?
And Dave, before we have to end the show today, I wanted to bring up George. It's kind of along the similar lines here, but George is asking, can I do a partial Roth conversion from 401k if I have retired and do not have taxable income?
Yes, and would absolutely encourage that. Again, I have no idea, George, what you're talking about from a dollar standpoint, but if you are in a position where your income is only Social Security, I assume, again, you may want to look at it, though, again, with large brackets. We've got large brackets right now, maybe to your advantage to consolidate into a few years more than you typically would. So hopefully your Social Security doesn't keep getting taxed every time you do a conversion. Maybe you just tax it once or twice and you get everything done and you're still able to stay in decent brackets. But yeah, absolutely. Other thing you got to look at too, I will tell you, George, as you get into retirement, make sure you're taking into consideration the Medicare income limits. So if you've got too much money coming in there and getting reported on your tax return, it can increase your Medicare premiums. Usually still worth converting, but we want people to be aware of all the potential risk out there, the costs of what it may cost you to do these conversions.
Dave, I see stuff like this, and I almost want to come back and give you a new topic for podcasts or things, but the things I wish I knew before I retired.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see it all the time. People just get themselves into really bad situations. I mean, it was like the other day I was teaching on long-term care, and one of my recommendations in long-term care, if you're going to buy a policy, which I'm not against, it's a better option than trying to fund it yourself. And when we look at it from a rate of return standpoint, even as high as those premiums are, if you're going to use it, much better to let the insurance company cover those costs. Just pay those premiums, easier than you putting money aside. Well, my recommendation is, look, pay it up front. Either pay a lump sum, 10 years, maximum 20 years. Do not go beyond 20. I'd really like to see people funded in 10. Going to be very expensive to do it. But somebody came on there and said, Dave, that's great advice, but I'm already stuck in one that's going to go the rest of my life. I'm already here. And it really comes back, if you're there, again, be grateful you made good decisions at the time based on the information you had. But you've got two options now. And the biggest one is you go forward with it. But two, what I'd recommend, go shop it at this point. Maybe you can find a better policy. This individual is 60, so not that old when you look at a long-term care event and when it should happen. But it's like, hey, go out and shop it. If you can't find anything better, hey, so it is what it is. At least you got something there. But you may find that you can find a better policy, even though you're going to, unfortunately, for many people, if that happens, may have lost 10 or 20 years of premiums that you paid in that now it's going to be gone. But whatever you do, don't just go out and randomly shut down your policy. I mean, if I told you to go get something that doesn't match what you have, please do not cancel everything. Oh, Dave told me on the webinar that I shouldn't have this. I'm going to cancel it. That's not the answer. You want to get the planning. You want to sit down with an advisor where they can walk through it and make sure we can find something better for you.
And Dave, longtime viewer Mike's on here. And he's saying, George, I am in the same situation and have done a partial conversion from a 401k to Roth each year, just enough to stay in the 0 or 10% tax bracket.
That's awesome, Mike. Thanks for sharing that. That is something to me I love to see. When people get it, they're in a situation where they can take advantage of it. They can slowly start moving that money because, as Mike knows, he got a double win. He got a tax deferral for it, which really acted as a tax deduction when the money went in. Now he's pulling it out, not having to pay anything, not having to pay on Social Security, and saying, "Look, this is great, America. It's the land of the free." Unfortunately, most of us don't get to say that much anymore. But it's the land of the free. I'm getting these free benefits. So great job, Mike. Way to use the knowledge you have to take advantage. And hopefully, George, you can do the same thing.
Well done, Mike. Dave, that's why we're here, because we want to be able to see this in action all the time, and seeing people that are making these great choices like Mike is.
Yeah, it's always fun to see it work out. And again, we see it work out to some level. Don't get me wrong. We see it every day. But we do see, again, we're problem solvers. So most of what we're getting is people are coming to us saying, "Hey, I've got a problem that I need to get fixed." Well, we can fix it. And yes, it happens. Sometimes it's going to happen in 3 years, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be. But it usually does take some time. So it's fun to see someone like Mike that's saying, "Look, I've been doing it for years now. It's working. I love what it's doing for my retirement."
And Dave, we've also got, he's giving me a little piece here. Dave, I did it because of the knowledge you taught me.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Glad to hear that. I hope we're helping your retirement and everyone else's out there to where you can make those good decisions and make that retirement better. You know what? Every dollar counts when you get in retirement. When you're at that point and you don't have a lot of other options to put money into the kitty, really great when you can structure yourself where you don't have to at least give any more to the government than you have to.
And Dave, I know we're over on time, and I'm going to bring up Gary here. Gary's saying, any further progress on giving a class on the mega backdoor Roth IRA in the near future?
Gary, thanks for asking this. There has been progress. So in our efforts to continue to be able to keep up with everything we need to do, we've hired a number of other people. Now, they're not going to be on the show with us. You're still going to get CR and I, whether you like that or not. But we have hired a content writer that is helping me put the show together. So I'm expecting by next week to have some draft material. Now I don't mean to get you too excited. It does take us a while because we've got to then have CR create all of it. I've got to lay out the slides. I would expect, my hope is by the time we can get it launched, that it's going to be October, November. I hope we're not pushing into December. But Gary, we are making progress. It is something I'm committed to doing. I will tell you some good news, though, Gary. Get excited. They're actually in the process of being booked right now. I don't think they're live yet on the platform you use to get your education. But there are 2 new classes coming from Tom Hegna. One is on life insurance itself. He's going to do an hour just on life insurance and its impact. And he's doing another one on helping clients become millionaires. It's a great one where he talks about just simple things people can do to be able to have much more money in their retirement. So look forward to those. They're going to come. I think, don't quote me on this. I think the first class is like the 23rd. No, the first class, 15th of September, the tax deadline for those that are doing taxes, for the companies. And then the 23rd of September is the other one. So they're going to come at the end of September. We hope this other class will be there by the end of October. So hopefully good things coming for you. A lot of great content coming your direction.
And Gary is still waiting for both of us to get out there. It's a beautiful San Francisco Bay Area, and you have lunch or dinner at Fisherman's Wharf. A great place.
Gary, as soon as I can get that direction, I promise you I'm going to come that way. I'm excited for it. I have to go to Boston next week. In fact, we'll be doing the show from there. Hopefully I'll be part of the show. It may be CR next week. I've got to go to Chicago, but I'm really hoping to get back out to the West Coast. I was hoping September. It looks like it's probably not going to be till October. But I'll tell you, as soon as I can get there, I am happy to connect and enjoy some time together.
Yeah, and I want to thank everyone for being here. Mike and Gary, thank you so much. And way to go, everyone. Continually learning and taking action. That's the best part. I feel awful when we're here just talking and not giving any valuable information where people aren't taking it. Dave, it's one thing to teach, but it's another thing for people to take action and leave with something of value for them. And that's the best part about what we do every day.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's fun to see it actually happen because you're right. I can teach, we teach what, 60, 70,000 people on an annual basis, and we don't always see the end result. And we also see a ton of people that get the information, never do anything. And what good's information if you don't share it, if you don't use it in your life? We've all had those situations where we've gained things that could have really helped us and we didn't move forward. But this isn't a thing you want to play with. Retirement's coming. It's going to be there. It's going to be a very long time for many of us. We need to make sure we're prepared for it.
And Dave, before we go, because I know we're way over on time here, I just want to remind everyone that one of my very favorite webinars we have is Getting Safely Through Retirement. And this is one of the best webinars you can be part of. Dave, tell me just in a quick 30 seconds how impactful this webinar can be.
Yeah, this is my favorite webinar of all webinars that we teach. I have just recently redesigned it. So if you've gone, you're not going to get a whole lot of additional information. Originally, we talked about 8 risks. I've added 2 others into it. I've added Medicare, which is a risk that many retirees are facing. And I've added elderly abuse, something else that oftentimes not talked about, elderly financial abuse, because we lose our minds, don't have a good plan, maybe have too much cash that we have access to, and people end up taking advantage. So that we've redesigned it. 10 risks. We're going to cover those. And then the great thing is too, with the new format, I provided 5 strategies. We used to run you through, and they still give you an option to go through a case study, but we give you the 5 strategies you can use to implement in your own retirement. So it's a great opportunity for people to really understand risk and what they can do to eliminate those risks.
Yes, we invite you to theprosperityguy.com. We also have Dave, the retirementriskadvisors.com, all these different websites that allow you to have access to get on to see this webinar and be part of this webinar. Like you said, the 10 risks, the 2 new risks that have been added. So grateful for that webinar so we can continue to learn. So if you haven't been part of that, I encourage you to sign up. And again, if you didn't get your question in, we didn't squeeze it in time, feel free to go ahead and get that on the contact us part of our website, and you can get your question thrown into the mix as we continue to do this.
Yeah, and I've got to get Gary to keep motivating me. We've started the book. There's going to be a book called Getting Safely Through Retirement. I think I'm up to 20,000 words, something like that, 16, 20,000, expected to be about 40,000 by the time I'm done. But it's coming. I'm hoping that's by the end of the year as well, where you're going to get all these risks. You're going to get our strategies, be able to take a much deeper dive than we can take even in a 1-hour webinar, let alone question and answer segments like this.
And something we're so excited about it again is we're starting to get closer and closer to finishing some of these projects. We have so many projects and different things we're working on. So once again, thank you for being here. Dave, thanks for all your time going through all these questions today. It's been great.
Yeah, it has been. And welcome to the South. Welcome to this side of the country. Excited to have you in Georgia and to hear the new stories as you're getting adjusted to a new neighborhood, new community, the new activities, all the things that you're going to be able to do there.
Yeah, if I can just get my internet to stay consistent while we do this, that's the next bonus for us. So
it only took me, CR. It's only taken me about 1 year and 3 months now. So finally, this last month, I finally got it to where they do have it fully functioning. Hopefully shouldn't have many issues on my end going forward, but hopefully you can get it done much quicker than I did.
Yeah, I hope so. And again, thank you to everyone for being here with us live. And thank you for those who are watching replay. And we will see you guys again next week. Remember, it's at 11 a.m. Central Time. And if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to go to the website and hit the contact us page so we can take care of that. But if not, Dave, we'll see you all next week as well.
Okay. Good to see everyone. Looking forward to it. Be back here, same place, same station.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later.